Nick, what's your favorite cooperative moment of all time? Mine's the one where Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers do like this and it goes to zoom in.
We're just as in shape as those guys.
Yeah, we are. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We are the Brothers Murph, and it's time to talk about cooperative games.
Indeed. Cooperative games are what got us into the hobby.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of people enter that way.
It's a good way to get in, right? I always say, like, cooperative games are a great gateway game because you don't have to worry about, like, oh my God, I'm losing, and like, I don't want to I don't want to ask any questions because I don't want people to know what cards are in my hand.
Right.
In a co-op game, you can just be like, how does this work? And they'll be like, we're on the same team, whatever, I'll just tell you how this works. I think cooperative games are great, and that's what got us, like, into the hobby, pandemic, zombie side.
Very important. We started almost exclusively. I remember early on saying, like, I don't want to play competitive games. I'm all co-op.
All co-op.
Now I'm like, I like the competitive, but like, it was such an easier way to like grasp this scary new world.
And it was also something you'd never seen before. If you only played like the Monopolies, the Chutes and Ladders, stuff like that, a co-op game just doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
You know, you're on the same team, you're playing against the game? That doesn't make any sense. So nonetheless, we love cooperative games. Still to this day, I'm always interested in them.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be our top 10 cooperative games.
So our number 10 cooperative game is the Loop. This is a difficult cooperative game where you are different kind of like time agents fighting against Dr. Foe, who's this evil villain who's bouncing around in different eras of time and basically creating clones of themselves. It's just messing up the timeline, like ripping holes in space-time. And you have this cool circular board. In each kind of section, each little wedge is a different era, you know, the Renaissance era, the kind of modern era, like the kind of post-futuristic apocalyptic era and things like that, the age of antiquity and such. And these different clones will pop up, and then we are going to be moving our little figure around from different zone to different zone and using up energy to kind of play cards and then loop cards. So it's kind of a deck building game where you can buy cards and such, and they'll give you different abilities. They'll allow you to push or pull a clone from one region to the other, which if you ever get a clone back to the time that they came from, they will be disappeared. You've basically corrected the timeline, because if I have a Renaissance clone and they pop up in the future, they're not in the right place. That destabilizes the world. I have to get that clone back to the timeline that they originally come from, and that will eliminate them. And the cool thing is you have all these cards that do this stuff, and these cards kind of have like suits or icons that they follow. And what you can do is you can play out, like, say, 2 cards that have the same icon, and then you can loop them by paying an energy. You get those cards back and can reuse them again that turn. And you can even do that again, but there's an ever-increasing energy cost to do that. And so it's really fun to kind of sequence those cards and use them and then reuse them. You can drop down energy into the different areas so that now your next teammate, when they get to that area, they have all this energy to use. So it feels very cooperative, very teamwork based about, I'm going to leave this for you. If you can go over there and you can move that clone, then on my turn, I'll take that clone and pull them to me, and that gets them removed. And you're trying to complete objectives along the way to ultimately win the game. It's a really difficult game because Dr. Foe is just dropping these cubes and messing up the timeline over and over again. But it feels very cooperative in that true teamwork sense, which makes it very enjoyable. That is the Loop.
Our number 9 is a game that I have been just super into, and that is a game called Bandido. Bandido is... It's a game that really lies to you because it comes in like a tiny, like, oink-sized box, but it takes an entire table to play. It's very, very sprawling. But this is a game, it's a cooperative game, obviously, where you are all working together, and in the center of the table there is a Bandido, and that Bandido is escaping. They are digging like crazy, and they are trying to get out of jail. And we are trying to keep them in. And so we have all these cards. You'll have 3 cards in your hand, and they have different pathways. And the Bandido can essentially go out 6 different paths. He's essentially digging 6 different paths all at one time. And so basically what you're trying to do is you are trying to cut off all the paths. You will win as a group if you cut off every single path in the game. And you can cut off the paths in 2 different ways. You can put down these cards that have, again, these paths on them, and if you make a loop, that essentially cuts off that path because essentially it just leads back into the same path, so boom, you cut it off. You also have cards that have security guards on them that have little flashlights, and those essentially are going to be dead ends. So you're essentially trying to loop everything or dead end everything, but there's only so many security guards, and this thing thing is sprawling, sprawling, sprawling. And on your turn, you have 3 cards, and you have to play one of them. So what happens so often in this game is you get close. You have like one more thing you need to close off, or like 2 more things, and you're looking at your cards, and you're like, uh-oh, I'm about to make like 4 more exits, because it has like one, we need to cut off this one part. The only cards I have 4 exits on them. So I'm gonna put 1 here, and there's gonna be 3 more branches going. So now we went from 1 to 3. And so then you have to try and cut all those off, and it just works. It's so simple. It's one of the best gateway games ever, because you're just like, look, we're trying to cut off all this, make dead ends. These are your 3 cards. You have to play one. At the end of your turn, you draw a new card. If we run out of cards, we lose. If we block everything off, we win. That's it. It's so much fun. I love Bandido. It's great. It's our number 9.
So number 8 is a really fun programming game called Mechs versus Minions. Now, we early in our board gaming days played stuff like Robo Rally, which is a really fun programming game trying to get your robot to go to a certain place, but it's a competitive game. So ideally, I'm trying to do something with my robot that knocks your robot off course, and then your program plays out in a way that doesn't work for you, which can be fun, but it's really fun to put that into a cooperative setting where now we're not trying to mess with each other, but we're trying to help each other, and the game is definitely going to get us off course and mess up with our plans. So each encounter has a different objective. Usually it's knocking out a certain amount of minions. You might have to fight a boss and things like that, and there's all these kind of board elements. There's things like oil that might make you slide and stuff, and you can move around, and you also have weapons attached to your mechs that have different kind of area of attack, so they attack directly forward and stuff, and you're trying to create that program to move up, stomp on this minion, shoot that one over there, and achieve your goals. But of course, the minions are going to attack back. They damage your program, so now you only turn left when you want to be going straight, but you have this damaged, kind of timeline that you have to fix for yourself. It's a really, really fun game with a fantastic production value. It's just very impressive looking from Riot Games, and it's just really fun to play every time we play it, because now we get to stress out about the program that's going poorly, but at least we're on the same team while we do it.
Number 7 is a game that we've been playing more often, and I think we might delve deep down in this one. This is Marvel United. I really, really, really like Marvel United. I just love the concept. It's just such a simple game. It's a simple cooperative game where you are Marvel heroes. It'd be like Iron Man and Iceman and Hawkeye and whoever. Everyone is in it. There's a humongous Kickstarter. And so basically you're choosing your different heroes. You're going up against a different villain. So like, Magneto in the X-Men one, or like Taskmaster in the main one. And essentially they're going to have certain things that they do. But this game is really, really cooperative, which is why I really like it. So on your turn, you'll be playing cards into this line of cards, and you essentially play a card, and then you get to do what's on that card, but you also get to do what's on the previous card as well. So you actually are really helping each other out, because you're like, oh, Mike needs to go over here and fight. So what I'm going to do is, my last card is I'm going to play a card that has like a punch on it, so that Mike can then use that. And so you really are working together to put down these cards and really do what you need to do in your turn, but also set up the next person if you can. And then of course the villains will go, and they're making stuff all terrible for you. And they really, really feel different. That's one of the reasons why I really like this game. The first time we were playing this, I believe we were playing against like Red Skull, who was really kind of like more straightforward, but really, really fun. And then we're like, okay, let's play again. Let's play against Taskmaster. And it was like a completely different game, because Taskmaster just works very, very differently. And the stuff you have to do just works very differently. And it's just so much fun. I really like it. The minis are incredible. But what I like about this game is this is a game with an absolute gargantuan amount of content, but the game is short. The game is like 30 minutes. So if you want to sit down and play for like 2 or 3 hours, you can knock out 6 games, and every single game you're like, okay, let's choose all new heroes, let's choose a new villain, boom, and you can actually get through that mountain of content, whereas a lot of these other humongous Kickstarters where you get like a human-sized stack of boxes, those games are like really, really long, but Marvel United isn't. It's quick. And so you can actually get through that content you have, and it's not just sitting on your shelf for like years, I don't know, I'm really infatuated with Marvel United. I think it's really, really fun. I love the minis, and I'm so excited to explore more of it and get more of it, to be completely honest. Marvel United is great.
So number 6 is a big game from Chip Theory called Burncycle. So this is a game where we are robots who are rising up against our human overlords, but for like a good cause, because humans created AI, these advanced robots, and then they sort of like, you know, went away because of pollution and terrible things, and then the robots brought humanity back, and then humans said like, you're our, you know, our robots to do our bidding now, and we're kind of like, yo, this is our place, you know, and so they're kind of fighting back against their oppressors in a really cool way. So this is a game where you're pulling off a heist. You're going into a corporation, a little corporate building and stuff as these robots, and you're trying to steal information, hack into their mainframe, get you know, someone free a different kind of robot or something like that. And the thing that's really cool for us is it's a game that, even though you're these kind of big robots and stuff, it's not just a pure battle game. It's really about being stealthy and kind of moving around. You really want to avoid direct conflict. I think that's super cool. I think it's really cool to set this kind of futuristic iRobot, but from the other perspective world, and not have it just be a shoot 'em up. That would have been fine, but I think it's much more interesting to have a game where you have to really be sneaky, and there's these different robots that patrol around and things. You have to avoid their detection. It's a really interesting thing to explore. Like, what do I do if I don't want to get into fights? I don't want to hurt anybody. I just want to be free, right? It's a really interesting concept for a game. So Burncycle has been one that's really fun. It's really fun to solo, you know, fully co-op. There's all these different scenarios to explore. And it's all about taking down the man, which is pretty cool for us. We really enjoy it, and it's just set in a really neat world, which Chip Theory usually excels at.
Number 5 is a game that didn't start off as a cooperative game, but is now, and that is Stop Thief. Stop Thief, you can play cooperatively, you can play competitively, you can play one versus all, you can play solo. There's actually a lot of different ways to play it. The reason why we're throwing it in here is because we only ever play this game cooperatively, and I think we will only ever play this game cooperatively from now on out. We think it's a much, much better cooperative game. But this is from Restoration Games, so this is a game I think from the 70s, but basically what it is you have a board in the middle of the table. And that board has a whole bunch of different numbers, and then different places where thieves can steal stuff. And what you're trying to do is find this pack of thieves. And you are going around and just trying to find them. But you're finding them through audio clues. You play with an app, and basically the app is controlling where they're going on the board and giving you audio clues. So if you hear like the... that's someone walking inside. It doesn't sound quite so much like a horse in the game. And so you know, okay, they just moved inside somewhere. Okay, so that means they can't be anywhere outside. They can't be on a door space, because you would have heard like, for a door, you would hear psh if they had been going through a window. And so you're getting these audio clues, and you can track them down through those. And so you go a couple turns, you're moving around doing stuff. You go, okay, so on Mike's turn, we heard indoor walking. On Mary's turn, they hit a door, and then on my turn, they went out a window. Okay, so you start looking, you're like, okay, so they can't be here because there's no spot that goes directly from a door to a window. And so you can start deducing it together where they're going, and then eventually you get to a spot where you think they are, and you can attempt to make an arrest. If you make an arrest, boom, you caught one of the villains. The other ones then run away, and you have to go find them again. And it just works. It works really, really well as a cooperative game. I really, really like the deduction and the audio clues. I just feel like it feels very unique and very fun. I really like Stop Thief. It's just, and like you can play competitively where you're all trying to find them on your own. But I don't know, to me it just doesn't work very well. Cooperatively is the way to play. We absolutely love Stop Thief.
So number 4 is a real-time cooperative game using sand timers called Rush MD. Now this is a game kind of based on Kitchen Rush, which is about running a restaurant in real time. Now you're trying to diagnose patients and treat them in real time. So this is a really fun game. It's got really great bits, very tactile, and it's all about grabbing stuff and moving things around. So it really revels in its kind of tactileness. It's really fantastic. So each round, you'll have 4 minutes, and you have your sand timers, which are your doctors and nurses, and certain things can only be done by nurses, certain things only by doctors and things. And you have to use your nurses and doctors to first get patients either in, you gotta, have them go into the hospital, or you can treat them in outpatient. That might be a little bit more simple for that. If you take them in, and you actually bring them into the hospital, they are then going to flip over and you have to do some tests because you don't know what's wrong with them. They're like, oh, my arm hurts and stuff. But you're like, you got to do some tests and you find out like, oh no, they have no blood in their body. That's a big problem. They got to go to surgery or whatever. So there's these like little mini games where you are going to be trying to figure out the severity of their injuries or whatever's going on and then treat those things. And there's just really fun stuff like syringes that you have to put these little wooden tokens in to represent blood or medicine. There's all these fun things. If you're in surgery, you have to use tweezers to pick up everything because that's sanitary. It just has a lot of fun with the bits. It's just kind of a bunch of toys and stuff that put together a really fun, real-time, kind of hectic game that's actually a really interesting challenge. And you're trying to kind of keep the reputation of your hospital up and treat as many people as you can. And that is, you know, just a noble thing to be doing, trying to help as many folks as possible. So you can really get behind the feelings of the challenge. There's a bunch of expansion things to explore with this game now. Rush MD is just a really fun, interesting, chaotic, good time where you just get to shout at each other across the table and everyone's happy to have been shouted at.
Number 3 is probably gonna be on a lot of people's cooperative list, and that's The Crew. I just really like The Crew. I think there's a very obvious reasons of why this game is absolutely huge is because it's just so darn good. It's cooperative trick-taking, which is a thing that kind of doesn't seem like it would make sense, but it does. And I'll say specifically we like The Crew Mission Deep Sea more than The Crew Quest for Planet 9. They're both great, but I honestly think Mission Deep Sea is just a little bit better in the way the tasks work. But you'll have these different tasks, and the tasks will be like, I cannot take any 3s or 4s. And the other task will be like, I will win only 2 tricks. And the other one will be some other thing. And everyone has to take these tasks. And then you're essentially all working together to get everyone to fulfill their tasks. And it can be really, really difficult, but you really have to work together. And there's so much of like, obviously you can't show each other your hands. And so there's so much of that communication that happens in trick-taking games of being like, okay, they played this. That means they don't have any yellows. I know that because if they did, they would have to play a yellow because they have to follow suit. And so there's so much of that like non-verbal communication that goes on in trick-taking games, particularly team trick-taking games like Spades, that happens in this that's so much fun. I also think that The Crew is really, really good for experienced trick-taking players. I also think it's very good for like pretty beginner trick-taking players because again, you're all on the same team, and I think cooperative games in general tend to work very well as gateway games for that reason. And I don't know, it just is so fun. We've played it over and over and over and over and over and over again, and I just absolutely adore it. Both Crews are great, but Mission Deep Sea is even better. I love it.
So number 2 is Paint the Roses. This is a cooperative deduction game. A lot of deduction games are kind of heads up. You're trying to be the first one to solve the puzzle before anyone else can. And I really like that in Paint the Roses, we have a common goal. We are trying to complete the Red Queen's Garden. We're in the world of Alice in Wonderland. So we're in Wonderland. We're trying to complete the Queen's Garden by putting the right bushes and stuff in complete every space before she catches up and loses her temper, which does not usually bode well for her employees. Heads will roll. So in this game, we've each been given different whims. The Queen's always changing her mind about how she wants the garden to be. So I might have one that says, I want pink roses next to red roses. Nick over there across the table might have, I want bushes that are in the shape of clubs and bushes that are next to the shape of hearts, the suits of the cards and stuff like that. But we can't openly talk about what the Queen has told us because she wants it nice and quiet, no chit chat, all right, get to work. So in this game, what you do is you'll put a tile down and say it's my turn. I'll put a tile down that has a red rose, and there are 3 pink roses adjacent to that. And so when I put that tile down, I can put 3 cubes saying that this tile that I just placed makes 3 matches according to the whim that I have. Any other players that I also made a match for can also put cubes down. Now, of course, we can't give any more information, so you have to kind of take a look and be like, well, there's a lot of red roses, but also there's a lot, all of these are diamond-shaped bushes, so maybe it's red roses to diamonds. You know, it's like you have to try to pare down so that it can only kind of be one option based on the tiles that are around, and you have to do as much as you can with speaking as little as you can. It's a really fun challenge. We really enjoy it, and it's just set in such a beautiful world. The art is just really fantastic and colorful. and it's kind of light and bright and fun. You can choose easier or hard whims if you want to have something a little bit easier for people to guess, but unfortunately your gardeners who are racing around the board trying to stay ahead of the queen don't move as far if you choose those easier whims. So now you're compelled to choose harder, more difficult to guess whims. But if you guess things wrong, the queen moves twice as fast. And so you have a lot of really interesting decision points to make and a lot of great crosstalk across the table. So I like that everyone has whims at the same time so that everyone can participate in that. But if I don't have a whim that's been guessed on, I can't put a cube down and stuff, I can freely talk about, well, I think their whim is this, but I can't talk about my own. It just creates a lot of fun, interesting stuff. And there's the ever, the presence of the queen is ever present. So you're like always looking over your shoulder for like her literally chasing you down with the big axe. It's just really fun. Paint the Roses is our favorite kind of cooperative deduction game. I think it works really well, and that's why it's on our list.
Number one is going to be kind of, it's the cooperative game, and that's Pandemic. And you could really choose at this point any of the Pandemics. There are quite a bit. You can choose one of the main Pandemics. You can choose one of the Pandemic legacies. We're going to go ahead and say Pandemic Iberia because that's probably my favorite of like just the base Pandemics, not one of the legacy versions or anything like that. Here's the thing. Pandemic for us is very, very nostalgic. It was the game that got us into the hobby, so that's definitely tinting some of our view towards it, right? But it's so good. I honestly think it's simple, it's easy, it's something you can get behind. You're trying to save the world, I just think it works. And it's a game that we've introduced so many different people to. And at this point, there's so many different iterations. Again, you got Pandemic, Iberia, you got like the Reign of Cthulhu one, you got the Rising Tides one, you have like Fall of Rome, and then you have the ones like kind of like Fall of Rome where like they're kind of getting out of the realm of Pandemic where now they're straight up a pandemic system. They're not necessarily a pandemic game where they're kind of loosely based on Pandemic, but they're pretty different. You have like Fall of Rome, which is pretty different. You have the Wrath of the Lich King, and now this new one that was just announced is like the Star Wars Clone Wars one, which again is a pandemic game. It's a pandemic system game. And then you have the success of the legacy games. And we've played all three legacies, 1, 2, and 3, and they're all so good and so fun and some of the best gaming experiences we had. Pandemic in general is just like, it's just one of those games we'll always have, If our copy, which is very beat up, ever got to the point where we're like, this is just too beat up to play, we would then recycle it and we just go buy it again because we don't want it outside of our collection. We absolutely love Pandemic. It's kind of an obvious number one, but it's one of our favorites. It always has been.
So that was 10 co-ops we quite enjoy.
They're all good. They're all good. I
They're really fun.
Enjoy them. I really do. I'm always interested in a cooperative game, or especially if it's like this is a game expansion that makes a game cooperative, like Orleans.
Yes.
I'm always interested.
It's always so interesting to like say now you have a common goal and how do we work together to make this happen? What do I take? What do I give you to do task-wise? It's always exciting and interesting. Co-ops will always be a very important part of our life, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And life's a co-op and all, so we got
humanity is a co-op. Our family plays games have shirts that say humanity is a co-op.
I stand by that.
So true.
Our family plays games as wise folks, and you should listen to what they say because humanity is a co-op. Those are some co-op games we like, though. Let us know what co-op games you really enjoy. I'm sure that we didn't name something that's your favorite. Let us know what your favorite is down there in the comments. And until next time, everybody, I am Mike.
I'm Nick.
We're the Brothers Murph, and we'll catch y'all in the next Top 10.
Bye, everybody.